This is the lesson for Chapter 8, Section 3, Volume of a Sphere, Day number 1. So let's take a look at our first problem here. And it's going to ask us for the volume of a sphere. So volume of a sphere is when we take 4/3 of pi times by the radius cubed. And so the radius is the distance from the center of the sphere to the curve of the sphere. And it doesn't matter where you draw the radius, it's always going to end up being the same. As long as it goes from the center to the curve, that it will be the radius. And so the radius is what we need, so let's just write down what our radius is here. It's 5 inches. And so we're going to go ahead and take 4/3 pi times by 5 to the 3rd power. So we'll use the calculator to help us come up with some of these numbers here. So 4 times by, and then 5 to the 3rd power. I'm going to use some parentheses to make sure I get 5 to the 3rd power done there. And then I'll go ahead and press equals. And I just did 4 because I'm multiplying straight across. See, the 4, everything, the pi and the 5 to the 3rd are all on top of a fraction. And so there, I could write that as a fraction if I wanted to over 1. And so what that made was 500. So some calculators will end up giving you the answer of 500 thirds in the reduced improper fraction form. And so the answer in the exact form is this 500 thirds pi. So if I go ahead and multiply, or let's go ahead and divide that by 3, it'll give me 166.6 repeated. So that's the decimal equivalent. And then I multiply by the pi button there, and what pi is to many different decimal points, and that gives me this number, 523.59. So the 9 is big enough to round this up, so we're going to say the answer is about 523 point, and that would be 6. So 6, and these are inches to the 3rd power. So let's take a look at the next one. And this one gives us a diameter. It's the distance all the way across the circle or the sphere. And so the radius is always half of the diameter. So you're going to take 18 divided by 2. That gives us 9 millimeters. So I'm going to set up the formula this way. 4/3 pi times the radius. And I know what the radius is now, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. I've got 9 to the 3rd power. So when I do this one, I know what 9 to the 3rd power is. See, 9 to the 3rd is 729. So let me go back there. I just press 9 to the 3rd power, and you see how that makes 729. You see, then I'm going to end up dividing by 3. See how this number 3 is in the denominator. Again, treat this as a fraction. You've got 4 times by 729 divided by 3 times pi. So I used the commutative property. It allowed me to move some terms around, and now I'm able to do some division. So you're going to end up seeing how when I go ahead and divide or multiply by 4 and then divide by 3, you see you get 972. So it's 972 pi. That's the exact number. Now if I go ahead and take that number and I multiply by pi, so times pi, and look what that gives me. It equals 3,053 and 6/10. The 2 is not big enough to round that up. So 3,053 and 6/10. These are millimeters to the 3rd power. So again, you can see the calculator there. See, the 2 is not large enough to round that up, so we rounded down. So let's take a look at our next problem, and that's going to be one where we're trying to find out what the radius is. So let's go ahead and set it up this way. Our volume formula, remember, is volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. We're trying to find r. Well, we know v this time, so 972 pi equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And so what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to divide by 4/3 pi. I'm going to do that on both sides of this equal sign. And that's going to cancel out the pi's. And when I go ahead and do this division in the calculator, I would use the parentheses. So I'm going to write 972 divided by, and then I'm going to use the parentheses to make sure I get the division done correctly for the 4/3. So 4 divided by 3, and then I'm going to close the parentheses. Now this is the answer for 4 divided by 3. So I press equals, and then it gives me my number 729. Now I'm going to show you another way to come up with that answer as soon as I'm done with this last step here. And we're going to go ahead and take the cubic root of this, and that's going to cancel out the cube symbol to leave us with r. Now, calculators oftentimes have a cubic root button, for scientific calculators that is, and it's going to be right here. So you're going to look for a cubic root button, and it gives us 9 as that answer. So 9 millimeters. Now the other way to do this, instead of dividing by 4/3, we could multiply by the reciprocal. And that's actually how the calculator is coming up with the answer. So it would look like this. So we've got 972 pi equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And so you see if you multiply by the reciprocal, the 3's and the 4's cancel out. Do the same thing on this side. So times by 3/4. And 4 goes into 972 because 4 goes into 9, or it goes into 72. It goes into the last 2 digits of that number. And so all you have to do is, same sort of thing. We have to do 972, and then we can times by 3, and then divide by 4. And that's what a fraction is. It's a multiplication of the numerator, divide by the denominator, and you see how you get 729. And then you can take the cubic root to get that answer. So same sort of thing, just 2 ways of coming up with that same answer there. And so we still had pi in this case, pi r cubed. We divided by pi, and we took the square root, or the cubic root, to come up with that answer. And we get the same exact answer of 9 millimeters. So let's take a look at this next one here. 4.5 pi equals, and then we write 4/3 pi r cubed on the other side of the equal sign, because that's what the formula is. So we can pick either method. I'm going to use the division method for this problem. So I'm going to divide by 4/3 pi. And so divide by 4/3 pi. The pi's cancel out. Let's take a look at the calculator. We've got to enter 4.5 divided by. Now, in order to make sure we get the work done in the denominator first, I'm going to use some parentheses. It doesn't hurt to overuse parentheses, just to make sure things are done right. Now, this answer is not the answer to my problem. This was just 4/3. So now when I press equals, that's going to give me the answer to the problem up top there, the 4.5 divided by that 4/3. And so that gives me 3 and 375 thousandths equals, and I'm left with r to the 3rd power. So I'm going to take the cubic root of that answer. So I pull up the calculator again. Again, don't clear your numbers. Don't round yet. Never round until the end of the answer. And so at this stage, we're going to go ahead and take the cubic root. And look, you get 1.5. So 1.5 equals r. So 1.5, the units are centimeters, is the radius in this problem. So those are problems that you're going to see on tonight's assignment. Good luck.